Do you have to interview someone for a position that you're recruiting for? Do you really care that the candidate gets a great interview experience? If your answer to both of them is yes, this video is for you. Hi, my name is Shambhu Agarwal. I am the founder of India Hire. We are a talent search, RPO, and staffing company. Having worked in the recruiting industry for over 26 years, having interacted with multiple customers and sat through multiple interviews, what I have really found is that interviewing somebody is really a technique, and it is a blend of science and art. It has to be done very carefully, very meticulously, and with lot of care, because the other person is just coming here and you cannot bombard that person with lot of questions. It doesn't take the whole interview experience anywhere. So we are continuing our series of elevating the candidate experience. In my last episode, I discussed about how we can elevate the whole experience for a candidate through sharing a well written job description, giving a lot of information, and winning the candidate's heart and mind, so that candidate gets very engaging. The next step is essentially, once you have shortlisted a candidate, is essentially a interview or a discussion. Now the trick here is that you may call it an interview, but in today's world, when there is a war for talent, candidate is a very important stakeholder in the whole exercise of this assessment, discussion, and conversation. So it has to be done with a lot of tact, care, and with a lot of interaction. So in this episode, we are going to cover essentially the five very important aspects that as an interviewer you should really care for. And the first one that I would like to share with all of you is that we always expect a candidate to come prepared, knowing everything about you, everything about the company, the job, and everything. And you just expect that you, okay, fine, you will sit in the room and you'll bombard the candidate with questions because just because a candidate needs a job. I'm sorry, this is not the right approach of really getting a stellar candidate to your company, or even for the image or the brand building of your company in the employees market or prospective employees market. So as much as you expect the candidate to come prepared with everything about your company, about the job, about everything, you should also invest time understanding a little bit about the candidate and reading his or her resume very carefully before actually you get into an interaction. It is also important to look through the social media footprint of that candidate, because it will give you an idea about the likes, the preferences, aspirations, thoughts about the candidate, so that when you are in a discussion with that candidate, you can really build on a lot of discussion around those, and it will give you an opportunity to really understand the candidate at a greater depth. And not only that, it is going to be beneficial for you. Even the candidate will be left with a great interview experience, because candidate will also can see that as much as he or she has invested time preparing for this interview, you have also spent equal amount of time understanding about the candidate. So this really elevates the whole candidate experience. And if as they say, well begun is half done. So once you really start around those, and rather than asking the candidate that very old fashioned question, tell me about yourself, which is very old fashioned, you actually tell the candidate about the candidate himself or herself. Okay, this is what I read from the CV, this is what I already know, so let's, how can we take the discussion forward? So first very important point is that you should really study the CV well, plus social media footprints. This is very important. Having done that, and start having started that rapport in that discussion with the candidate, second very important point is that you have to make the candidate very comfortable. And believe me, the onus of doing that is actually not on the candidate. It is actually on you if you are interviewing somebody for a position. So you have to use ways. You have to study the body language of the candidate. This is very very important. You must make an effort to make the other person very very comfortable. Imagine you go for an interview, and if you are nervous in front of somebody, how you will feel. Even if you know the answer, you are not able to actually strike a very good conversation with the interviewer. Same goes with the candidate who has come all the way to meet you, blocking his time, taking the trouble to come and meet you. The onus always of making the candidate comfortable is on the interviewer. This is a very very important point. Onus on interviewer. So you have to make the person comfortable. Bottom line. Now, moving on, having made the candidate very comfortable in the, how the person is having a conversation with you, and you already know a lot about the candidate as much as candidate knows about you and your company. The next point is, you should also, when you start asking questions, build a discussion around the JD or the job description or the KRAs, which are important for the job for which you are looking at that particular candidate for. And it is very very important to ask very very pointed questions from the candidate with respect to the KRAs, the highlights of the person, what she or he has done in the past, or how they have actually come up, whenever they faced a challenge at work. So stick to the KRAs and the job requirement, or frame the questions in your mind beforehand, before actually you get into a discussion with the candidate, so that you have a very very engaged and very KRA specific, very pointed JD related questions. A lot of times we get into a few arguments or few irrelevant questions. This really puts the candidate off, and at times candidate starts wondering, is my prospective employer is really serious, or the person who is really interviewing me, is he or she competent enough to really interview. It is very very important not to get into those discussions at all. And at least you should look at spending at least 30-40% of the total interview time around the whole KRA, around the job description, job requirements. And if and you can also, because all the time you send the JD to the candidate beforehand, so candidate knows what are the job requirements. You can also ask the candidate what the candidate has understood about the job that he or she is going to do. That way you will know whether the candidate has understood the job requirement and the KR as well. And if one has not, the onus again shifts on the interviewer to explain that, in 2-3 minutes, so that the candidate really knows that what she or he has to actually do at the job. So we come to the third point: stick to JD and KRA's questions only. This is very very important. Now, having spent 40% roughly of the total interview time around the KRAs, around the job description, you find some common interesting points, which you could read from her or his social media footprints, or from the resume, or something which you feel is of common interest. Because if something you find which is of common interest, it is very obvious as an interviewer you will actually know about those things as well. This will actually help you build a rapport with the candidate a little bit informally, because the job description or the KRAs are very formal part of the whole discussion. And you can also inquire a little bit about hobbies, what special things she or he has done. So this really engages the candidate pretty much, and moves away from the formal discussion, and you actually get to see that how the person will be a little bit in an informal setting if that person has to join your company. Moving on, so fourth point is pick up common interest, and a bit about hobbies. This is very important. So I would like to summarize from the beginning. So you study the resume, you understand the social media footprint for the candidate. Onus is on you as an interviewer to make the other person very, very comfortable. The third one is actually you stick to the questions which are around the job description, job requirement, and the KRAs. Then you actually find a lot of common interest areas or some hobbies that you build a discussion. And believe me, by this time, the candidate will really warm up and the candidate will feel very, very involved and engaged in that discussion. And candidate will already have very high opinion about the interviewer, that okay, they have also invested time, and the lot of positivity comes in the discussion. This I have actually found in multiple discussions I have had over my 26 years of career. When I started my recruiting career way back in late 90s, I used to make it a point to sit through multiple interviews with my seniors, with very experienced search consultants, and with my chairman. And I would sit quietly and observe them, that how they're building the discussion with the candidates. A lot of those insights, coupled with a lot of reading, and plus also looking at some of the best practices of effective interviews where candidate is really moved and we leave the candidate with great candidate experience. I have kind of summarized that these four things have really helped me. And for last almost like 14-15 years, I make it a point to read the JD thoroughly. I make it a point to make the other person very comfortable, because I know this onus is on me. And then I stick to the questions around the job description, job requirement, and the KRA. And then also in the discussion bring some kind of informality by building a discussion around some common interests, some hobbies, and some of the current affairs which are happening. This really opens up, and a lot of times I have seen that candidates also gets into a little bit of more comfort, smile, and laughter. And this really helps build a great rapport with the candidate, because whenever I personally approach an interview, I don't look at that other person, that I have to sit and judge the other person. We both are actually judging each other, so this should always remain in the mind of interviewer, and they should continue the discussion forward. Now having done that, we move to the last stage of the very effective interview, is closing an interview. It is very, very important that you close the interview with the next step, and also a little bit of gratitude towards the candidate in some nicely worded sentences, and some kind of a appreciation. Mind me, because the candidate has come all the way, taking time to travel, come and wait for you for interview and spend half an hour. And so by doing that, you actually leave the candidate with a very good closing of the discussion, and candidate really goes back very happy and with very good interview experience. So I'm sure, so I'm going to write this, the last point is, so closing with next step and appreciation and a little bit of gratitude. This goes in a long way to build very good rapport, and also probably if candidate is very good fit for the role, candidate will also get really interested in the job. So as we covered in the first episode about the great job description, we covered about really giving all the relevant information to the candidate beforehand, and giving this candidate this level of interview experience. You know that how these two things can really elevate the overall candidate experience, and you as an employer will, or you as a recruiter or a search consultant or a talent acquisition professional, actually will be able to fill your position very quickly. So I hope this video has been of help to you. I would love to hear your comments below here. I will be back in my next video, how to elevate the overall candidate experience. Thank you very much and see you in next episode.